Okay, so this lesson is going to be on the 4 basic strokes. Um, there's a few things though before we get into the 4 basic strokes. We have one stroke that is used as sort of a foundational stroke. It's called the Freestroke, and before I can really show you that, I need to show you how to grip the stick properly so we can execute the Freestroke. So if you look here, the stick is being cradled, and I'm using this little crease here on my middle finger, and then I'm using the crease right here on my thumb, and I'm creating a little cradle there for the stick to pivot on. And I keep my hand open like this, okay, as I need the stick to be able to bounce, okay, and have freedom to move in there. All right, see that? And then I don't want my pinky to stick out, and I don't want my index finger to stick out, or this finger to stick out. I want to wrap them around the stick just lightly and try to get that same thing happening. Notice that my hand is still open, you see? So just do this and get used to the stick bouncing. Maybe stop moving your wrist and then just let it bounce a little bit, and then that'll give you a good feel for the actual fulcrum point, if you will, on the stick. And that's usually somewhere from the halfway point moving back on the stick. You don't usually want the stick to stick out like that. You want it to be pretty much like that. That's pretty good there. Okay, so that way you can see that the stick is rebounding. So just play with it, and you'll be able to find this little nice sweet spot on the stick. Okay, just do things like that. That's just to get a feel for it. And then what we want to do is practice this free stroke. So you want to keep your elbow tucked in, not way out like this, and get your wrist up, and that lets the stick hang down at this angle like this. And then I'm going to lift my wrist up, and then I'm going to throw the stick. And when I throw the stick, it's going to come down, and it's going to hit the surface, and it's going to bounce up. And then I'm going to let the stick bounce all the way back to my hand, and I'm going to follow the stick with my fingers until they look like that. So the first picture is like this, and then the next one is like that. So those are like, if this was in a book, those would be the diagrams you would see. Step 1 and step 2. Okay. So you can get used to this motion and train your fingers to follow the motion of the stick if you just manually move the stick like this. Okay. Okay. So that's the first thing. Do that with both hands. And once again, I'm training my fingers to follow the stick and stick to it. Instead of doing that, which is not doing anything at all, I'm training my hand how to stay with the stick and control it. So even though the stick is able to freely move, I still have control over it. I'm maintaining contact. That's the control at this point. Okay, so the next step is to hit the end of the stick and put some energy behind the stick so that you can simulate that, and then you're training your fingers to move with it as the stick is actually moving. So the stick is now moving, and I'm forced to follow it. And so what you're going to notice is that when you hit it, sometimes if your grip isn't right or you aren't controlling it, the stick is going to go flying out of your hand. That's good, because now you know that you have to control the stick. All right, just do that. You can also hit it with the end of a stick, and that gives a little bit more power behind it, almost like if you're really throwing it. And you will, if the stick isn't flying out of your hand doing this, it will when you hit it with the stick. Let me move the mic out of the way so I don't hit the mic. If you noticed, I was whacking it pretty hard. That doesn't sound very good, but if you whack this stick onto this stick, it's a good thing. Okay. So next, you want to take all of this and then throw the stick onto the surface of the drum pad and allow the stick to rebound like that. That will be our free stroke. So step one is this, lifting it up from the starting position. Okay, and I'm not gripping it real tight once again. I'm just closing my fingers to control it so it doesn't just like hang all crazy like this, loose, too loose. That's too loose. So here's controlling it. But I'm still got this contact point going on. And I would say, if anything, the feeling is that now it feels almost as if you're holding the stick like this. But really, I'm just controlling it. I'm still maintaining this contact point. It's really important. Okay? So here we are. And then I'm going to throw this thing like it's a ball. And so when I throw it, when it gets down to here, I'm letting it go. I'm opening my hands. I'm opening the fingers up and I'm letting it fly down onto the surface here. And so it's going to bounce. All right. And then I'm following that motion. Okay. So that's the first thing there. And you notice every time that I do this, I have to reposition to here. All right. So here's starting position. Here's the first position before I throw it. And then there's the last position. And then I can't go anywhere from that. I have to dump this thing and let it get back to here and position myself and get ready for another one. So we really can't use this in drumming. But what we can do is use this grip and this sort of thing here by bouncing with my wrist. It's an open wrist stroke is what we call this. So it's not exactly the free stroke like this, but it's a similar kind of action. It's called the open wrist stroke. So open meaning my hand is open and loose, and wrist stroke, wrist meaning I'm using my wrist to bounce. Okay, so that first thing we did, that's using the open wrist stroke. This right here is the full stroke. Okay, so before I continue with the other strokes, I'm going to stop